then. So, welcome back to another episode of the Uncivilized Art Podcast. I'm your host, Bumi Hazan, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space, and I'm joined today once again by my best internet buddy, Sweet Bundy. How you doing today, sir?
Doing
um,
good. Can't complain. Can't
awesome.
complain.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We're going to be talking about it in depth, in as much depth as we can. So yeah, we are going to be getting into spoilers a bit later on, and I'll give you a warning when the spoiler section comes up. Before we do that, we'll do a kind of brief spoiler, a brief non-spoiler review of it as well. But before we do that, Mr. Bundy, what you been doing? What you been playing? What you been watching?
I've actually been playing MK1.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I beat it and everything. I will say this. Normally, when it comes to difficulty in games, I say play at the damn normal difficulty. It makes no sense to go to this high difficulty for the first time round. However, it ended up being a little lackluster as far as once it ended, I was like, oh, that's it. And that doesn't mean that the story was lackluster. It was actually good. It was very good. I was surprised that the whole, how can I say, time reset worked out so well.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the only complaint I have about the story really is a few nitpicks. Um, and this is no, I'm not going to put spoilers in there, but pretty much there are times where I'm saying, where the fuck is Liu Kang? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he handling this issue? You will find yourself asking that. Also, during the climax, you're gonna be like, "Wow, this is moving fast." That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Good game though. It's a good game, and I'm excited to see what's next. I plan on getting Baldur's Gate 3. I haven't watched any gameplay of it whatsoever besides the clip of this guy having sex with a bear that's a druid. And yeah, basically,
Beer
yeah,
sex,
I
alright.
have to get into that. Not to have sex with the bear, but to make my own choices. What if I do decide to do that? I don't know. I want to
So
be putting the.
you just
I
you want
like
the
the
option
option.
to have sex with a
Yeah,
bear, not necessarily that you want to have sex. You just want to be. You just want an option to do it. It's
exactly.
like
I
when they say
haven't.
you don't want to go to a party, you just want to be invited.
Yeah, yeah, and I never been in a position where I had that freedom in a game yet. So I'm very excited to play that. And lastly, I've just been playing WWE 2K23. I'm finally back on that wrestling back, and I've been watching a lot of wrestling lately. So that's been fun.
Yeah, man. But I haven't really watched wrestling much since I watched the WrestleMania. Was it WrestleMania 2023? The one just gone. Did watch that. But man, I've been so out of the loop on wrestling. But I did hear that they fired a bunch of people, right, on WWE. Like a whole bunch of people just let go
Mm,
recently.
yeah, mostly staff members. So because they had this switch in who owns, they had like a company merger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vince had sold off his shares or some shit like that. Um, and they merged with UFC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's the
Um,
same company that runs you that owns UFC now
yeah,
owns part of WWE or maybe all of WWE. But yeah, yeah, that's right. I forget the name of the company, but yeah, they own the
Endeavor.
UFC as well. Endeavor, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently Vince is going to be pretty much slowly pushed out, and he wasn't expecting that. This was like his last desperate attempt to pretty much stay in power as much as he can uh, after the controversy that he had, and we're not even going to get into that right now. But
That's a
after the
whole thing.
controversy
Yeah.
that he was involved in, they were trying to, he thought, okay, I could stay here and be fine, but no, that's not the case. So they're pretty much trying to get rid of him slowly but surely because he's a threat to their stocks.
Mm,
And money speaks louder than anything.
for sure, for sure. Man, Vince has just had. You know what? Here's the thing about Vince. Like, yeah, like I said, what I mean, I won't get too much into that because that's a whole thing. It's all allegedly, right? But what all I'll say for that is like when I heard about those problems, because there's been a few times it's been allegedly now for him. There's a few accusations, and is that ice cream van?
Hmm. Yeah, I was hoping that wasn't picking up on the mic.
Yeah, man. I can do some ice cream right now. You don't mind running out? But yeah, now what I heard about all these accusations that he's had over the years, I just all my opinion's always been the same. I'm just like, I'm not even surprised. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, sometimes you hear about celebrity getting accused of something, you think, no, really, this guy? When Vince McMahon got accused, I was like, I'm not even surprised.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not even
wasn't.
surprised. I'm not saying he did it. I don't know that. I'm just saying I will not even surprised.
Yeah, all I know is that if he's guilty, I hope something, you know, whatever is appropriate happens. That's what I hope.
Yeah, indeed,
If he's
indeed,
guilty.
indeed. Um, but yeah, as for myself though, I mean, I guess I'm still mostly, well, not mostly, but I've been still playing Final Fantasy VII. I'm pretty much at the end of that game. I got all the way up to Sephiroth, but Sephiroth was too hard for me, so I'm gonna have to level up. The thing is that I saved in a place where, because here's the thing about Final Fantasy VII real quick, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but when you're at a save point, you can swap out your teammates from this character, that character, and whatever, and whoever's
Yeah,
in your main team is the ones that level up. Now they all level up anyway, but the ones that are not in your main team level up slower, right?
yeah,
For some reason, you get to near where Sephiroth is, and you can you have to create your own save point. But the save point that you create, you can't swap out your teammates there, so it's just your main team. And I need to level up because I'm not powerful enough to take on Sephiroth. But because I can't swap out my team anymore, I have to level up my main team so much that by the time the secondary team level up, it trickles down a bit. So it's just taken ages to do that, to get them all to a point where we're all kind of strong enough to take on Sephiroth. But
yeah.
that's pretty much why I'm just leveling up in this last bit, which is just longing out. But I'm too far to pull it away now. It's like I'm so close to the end. It's been 25 years. I'm so close to the end right now. It's like I can't just. I feel like giving up. I feel like if it was any other game, I might just be like, no, I just can't be bothered with this. But it's like I'm just too close. Come too far to stop now. So it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to do it. I'm just gonna have to take the time. I mean, I've put in nearly 70 hours into this game over the past, I want to say, 6 months, 6 months, give or take. It's been a while. I've been playing kind of bit by bit over that period of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've come too far to put it away now. Like I just, yeah. But that's where I am with that.
And we're talking about the original or the
Oh
remake?
yeah, the original one.
Yeah, I haven't played
Yeah.
either, but I really do plan on playing it.
Yeah, the original one from 1997. Actually, when it came out, I remember I think about a year or a little while after it came out. Because I remember my little brother I was in the shop with my little brother, and I knew about it. I never even heard of Final Fantasy at all, but he knew about it, and for him it was like this big deal of getting this game, and I'm just looking at it like whatever, right? But then we was playing it, and I just remember watching him playing it and just thinking, this looks stupid. Like the game, it looks dumb. Like this whole you have to wait your turn to fight. Well, that's stupid, right? So maybe like another year and a half, maybe even 2 years before I actually thought, okay, let me try it out. So I'm playing it, I'm getting into it, right? And then this is back in the PlayStation days, so you have the 3 discs, and I get to the end. It took me something like 30 something hours, and finally got to the end of the first disc. Put the second disc, and I'm playing that a little bit, and I end up getting a corrupt save file. So literally all of that was just gone.
God.
And so for the longest time, I just didn't bother playing it. And I think I tried playing it again on PC. Like I think I bought it on PC or something. I tried playing it again, or it might have been PlayStation. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I played it again on some platform. And I got somewhere. I don't remember how far I got, but I ended up just giving up after a while. And then just now recently, I'm like, okay, let me one more time. Let me try this. And then here I am, all the way to the end of the damn game. But it's like, yeah, I've got to level up these bloody characters. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
That's the RPG grind.
Yeah. But most I guess I've been rewatching about Final Fantasy. So I've been rewatching The Walking Dead. So I watched The Walking Dead up to season. I think around about season 8 or so, that years ago, and I ended up kind of falling out of sync with it just because like this was back before it was on streaming platforms, or it
Yeah.
might have been some streaming platforms but there wasn't others, or they'd have like one season but they didn't have the other seasons. It was kind of like that.
Hmm.
So you're kind of waiting for a while, and by the time it comes out you've kind of forgotten about it because you're doing other things. So I think I got up to around about season 8 like years ago, and then ended up just leaving it from there. And I've heard like some stuff that happens after that, and most people that talk about it seem to say that it pretty much gets rubbish after that anyway. So like I haven't really bothered, but recently, because now that's all on Disney Plus. I mean, it's all been on Disney Plus for a while anyway, but now it's all on Disney
Really?
Plus. Oh yeah, yeah, all seasons are on Disney Plus.
Oh wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, now you know. Now you know.
I'm
So
just
yeah.
surprised that Disney Plus allows that on.
Oh wait, actually, Disney Plus in America might be different from Disney Plus in the United in the UK. I think we got different content because like I think what I heard is that Disney Plus in America doesn't have some of the more grown up stuff, whereas Disney Plus in the UK does.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
okay, okay,
in
okay.
America they split it up between different platforms, or like I guess Hulu, or I mean I don't know what services you have, but I think in America they split up in between different platforms to keep like the more family friendly image on Disney. But over here they don't care. They don't care. It's all on Disney Plus. It's like they got Walking Dead, they got a lot of the old school 80s action movies, you know,
Hmm.
like Predator, and you know they just, it's all there. Die Hard is on there. So yeah, Disney Plus over here is different to Disney Plus in America, for what I'm understanding. They just put it all in one place.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I've been watching that recently, and I just watched it up to I'm about halfway through season 6 right now, and it's been a pretty cool experience because a lot of it I've forgotten since it's been so long, and of course some stuff I still remember, but a lot of it I've forgotten. So it's kind of almost like watching it again for the first time. Um, but yeah, I would say that, and hopefully this is not too much of a spoiler for anybody, or not. But with the first two seasons, or let me just say this: with the first two seasons, Shane was right. Shane was right. I'll just leave that there. Shane was right. Like, you know, I appreciate Rick, you know, and in later seasons, you know, and I get it, you know, that with the way the world is, the Walking Dead, the zombies, the people around. But in those first two seasons, as far as I mean, Shay was an arsehole. Let me get me wrong. Shay was definitely they were all arseholes, but Shay was definitely an arsehole. He was a prick, but he was right. He was right. He was right. Let me just say that Shane was right as far as like surviving and all that, and Shane was right. But yeah, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good so far. Like I said, about halfway through season 6. I won't say what just happened in this last episode I just watched, because that is a major spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it. But yeah, it's been pretty good watching it again. I do plan getting through all 11 seasons, even though apparently they get crap after a while. But I've committed now. I'm committed now.
I mean, I wish the best of luck to you because, like, after shortly after Negan, that's when I feel like the show really fell off because um, the writing weakened severely because for me personally, I feel like the writers were onto something unique
Hmm.
and bold. And it made sense. It was following pretty much what the comics was pretty much doing. And you had a chance to really explore something. I'm talking vague on purpose, but
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you had the chance to really explore something, and you didn't. You backed down. You immediately folded because of the reaction from people. And it was like kids. It's like you're trying to get kids to eat vegetables, and they're crying, they're whining, and all of a sudden they got attitude. So now you give them what they want. Now you wondering why your kid got rotten teeth and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. When I think that, yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of talked about similar things in previous podcasts about creativity. Like, it's one, yeah. You on one hand, you don't want to piss people off, and you don't want to, you know, do things that nobody wants to see. But at the same time, you need to do things outside of what everybody's expecting, you know, and you can't just give people what they want all the time, because nobody really wants that. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we might say we want this, want this, want that, but the truth is, we're not the creatives, or as far as the show goes, we're the consumers.
Yeah.
So of course we're gonna say we want this, we want this, we want this, because that's what we know we want. We know we like this because that's what we've seen before. We just keep giving it. It's gonna get boring. It's gonna get stale. It's gonna get old. So, like, I think part of the thing with any show or movie or whatever is that, or certainly anything that has like iterations, right, going on. Yes, you have to understand the core things of why people came to you in the first place, but at the same time, you have to do things that nobody's expecting. You have to give people what they don't know that they want yet. You know what I mean? Keeping the show fresh, keeping the show, keeping it interesting. Not just doing the same things over and over again. And I think a lot of shows are kind of falling into that trap. A lot of the games series that kind of fall into that trap, like the. I mean, I don't play FIFA too much myself, but for people who play FIFA, say this, like, pretty much every game every year is the same game, just very slight tweaks here and there, and then they charge another £50, $60, whatever for it, and it's like, well, you keep buying it, so.
Yeah, and I feel like too many people supported the show, and it's just, I don't know. Of course, everybody has their opinions, but I feel like the show went too much in the direction of, like, let's just give everybody what they want, what the majority is asking for, and that's that. And that's why we got these damn spinoffs. We got like 2 spinoffs, even though the shit wrapped up, and you got a movie on the way, or a series, 1 to 2. I'm just exhausted from The Walking Dead. The only thing that I would like to see from The Walking Dead at this point is a game, and a good game at that.
Like
they had a game,
or just a
doesn't even have to be a Telltale, because I feel like Telltale season 4 Walking Dead, it had a good a good wrap up, even though the ending sucked. And we definitely got to talk about that sometime, if you ever have the time to play that game.
I haven't played it yet, but no, I'd have to get through because they're all out now, so I need to get through. I'm probably going to play them.
You get the definitive edition.
But yeah, and I had the Michonne spin-off, which I think I played a tiny bit of, but I didn't get through that.
Not that. Not that.
Not that one.
That one's terrible.
We're going to pretend that one don't exist then. Okay.
Yeah. That was terrible. I don't know what they were thinking, and you don't even want to get me started ranting on that. That was a terrible game, and I don't care what anyone says. It was terrible. Horrible.
All right.
I hate that game.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I hate that game, man.
In the show.
Because when it was coming out, I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't wait! I can't wait!" And I bought that shit. I said, "What the hell was that?" I was so angry. I'm still angry.
All right. No. All right, we'll skip over Michonne then. But yeah, I know I've played chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't played as 4. Wait, how many were there? It was 4, wasn't it? It was 4 chapters.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
For the Telltale games. Yeah, 4 seasons, excuse me, for the Telltale games. So yeah, I played 1, 2, and 3, but they're all years ago now, so I'm sure I've forgotten loads about them. So yeah, probably not gonna have to play them again and then play through 4. But yeah, definitely I think we'd have to talk about those Telltale games and Telltale in general.
Oh, definitely.
How they they're still around actually, because didn't they close down? Or they're still around?
They got closed down before season 4.
Yeah,
because season 3 was terrible. All right, that's why we really have to talk about it, because there's so much to talk about when it comes to that game company, and then the games, and especially that series in particular. They got shut down before season 4. No, actually, not before season 4. I think it was during season 4.
Yeah.
And everything seemed lost. Everybody was like, "Oh my god! Like, you guys couldn't just hang on for a bit." But because of the decisions that the higher ups of their company was making, licensing and everything, just trying their best to get as many rights as they can so they can make more games. They did quantity over quality, and that hurt their sales. So of course they went bankrupt. Thankfully, Skybound partnered up with some of them, and I don't want to say they acquired them or bought them, but partnership was made and pretty much saved Telltale to finish the game. And most recently, they came out with this game called Expanse. Um, it's pretty much your typical Telltale game as far as choice based goes into it. But I don't really know too much about it. I just know that it takes place in space, and that's it.
I think I've had it. I'm sure I heard somebody talking about it on some podcast I was listening to, but yeah, I don't talk about it. But yeah, I remember
Hmm.
like when they were being shut down, and there was this kind of thing about them trying to complete that the fourth game, and it was kind of in limbo for a while because some staff members had to leave, and that kind of thing. It was all a bunch of reshuffling and this, that, and the other, and of course getting the money
Yeah.
to complete it. But yeah, I remember hearing that there was like this big kind of like I think there was like a crowdfunding thing at one time as well to try to help them complete the game. I
Yeah,
may
that
be
sounds about right.
wrong on that, but I feel like I remember hearing something along those lines. But yeah, no, that's something we have to do some research on and play those games again, and have a podcast episode. Look out for a future podcast episode. We talk about Telltale games. Yeah, we'll plug that now. But yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, yeah. Let's just talk. From Telltale to. I was trying to think of a pun. I'm not sure I could go. Oh, well, never mind. From Telltale to Spinning Tail. No, that doesn't work, does it?
I
I
mean,
don't think that
we could say
works.
let's swing right over to Spider Man.
But yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, let's swing right over. But yeah, we're going to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is when did this bloody movie come out? I probably should have had that on my screen right now. Into the Spider-Verse. I want to say 2019. Um, into 2018. 2018 Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, it came out
Mm,
a few years back. Across the Spider-Verse came out, I think just this year, right?
yeah.
And we do plan on talking about that one in a future episode as well. But for now, we're going a few years back to the original. Well, not the original, but close enough to the original Spider-Man.
Hmm.
As far as the animation, Sony animations goes, it's the first one. Um, and yeah, before we get into all the spoilers, let's just talk a little brief non-spoiler review. So, for anybody who has not seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, what would your brief non-spoiler review be about Into the Spider-Verse from 2018?
Honestly, the film just comes off as, you know, it's there for fans and people to be introduced to Spider-Man as well, uh, which is similar to how you have Peter and Miles, right? Peter already knows the ropes, and not to get into specifics of which Peter we're talking about, but Peter knows the ropes and everything, and Miles is being introduced to it. So you get to have that kind of um, big brother and little brother dynamic between these two. I prefer not to say father and son like some people have said between Peter and Miles, because you already have his actual father there, and I love the relationship between them. In fact, I love the involvement of the mother as well. I just, these characters are so well written, and just seeing a relationship between them and the interactions and everything, it resonates with you. It's relatable, and um, it slows down at the right times. It speeds up at the right times. The pacing is very good. There wasn't one moment where I felt like things were dragging on. uh let's speed this up, let's get to the point, or hey, let's slow down a little bit, relax. Everything was so good, and it seemed like there was so much thought into everything that was involved in this movie. I loved it. I really loved it, and I couldn't wait to see more. And of course, before the movie came out, we were all skeptical. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us were skeptical. We doubted that this was going to be a genuine story. We thought it was going to be a cash grab. It was going to be corny. The animation, at least from what they showed in the trailer, was questionable because they were doing something different. They were doing something new. And it barks back to what we were talking about before, not giving people what they want, just doing what you got to do, or doing what you intend to do, and seeing how it goes. If you have enough faith in it, then you stand by it. And I'm glad that they stood by it. And what I mean is the animation of the frames, how you had Miles Morales moving at a different frame rate than the other characters initially. And then you go ahead and see how, at the right time in the story, you get to see that he blends in as far as getting on the same frame rate as everyone else instead of that awkward movement, because that was throwing a lot of people off, especially me. When I first saw that he was moving weird, I thought it was going to be doing this claymation kind of animation thing. It was weird, but I'm so glad that they stuck their guns to it, and I have so much faith in them for the trilogy, as a whole, to see how they wrap it up and everything. It's a must see movie, like for sure. Um, Especially if you're into animation, and most definitely, I mean, it's needless to say, if you're into Spider-Man, go see this movie if you haven't seen it. What's wrong with you? Is life too busy? I get it, but make time.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I would say don't think I noticed about the movements though. But anyway, we could talk a bit more in detail in a little bit. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I think just as if you're a Spider-Man fan, I'm sure you would have seen this by now already. If you're a Spider-Man fan, and if you're not a Spider-Man fan, I do still feel like there is a lot to be, or if you're not even into comic book movies or anything like that, I do think that this film does offer a lot to get from, without being necessarily, if you're not into whole geeky stuff, there's still things in there for you, because at its core, it's just a well made film,
Mhm.
and just centered around Spider-Man. If you take the characters and apply them to another situation, you can still have you still got a solid story there. So yeah, and I definitely just a well made, put together movie, regardless of whether you're into animation, regardless of whether you're into Spider-Man, regardless of whether you're into comic book films or sci-fi or fantasy or anything like that. It's just a well made film, a well told story. And yeah, and I mean, I know you've seen Across the Spider Verse. I've not seen Across the Spider Verse yet. Hopefully, I'll be getting to that shortly. Hopefully, I'll be getting to it before we talk about it, because that you're welcome otherwise. But yeah, I like I say, having faith in the trilogy. I mean, even just based on this one movie that I've seen, I feel like, yeah, I have a lot of faith in these next movies coming up. So hopefully by the time I get to Across the Spider Verse, and I don't know, but around the Spider Verse, whatever the third one's going to be called, they're just these good solid films that tell a story. Hopefully they don't milk it to the point where they're just making so many of these movies and it just stops making sense, and it's like, bro, just stop now.
No,
Just
I think
stop.
they're just gonna stop with the third one.
Mm,
Um, I think it's going to introduce a live action Miles.
mm,
That's what rumors have been, talking about. But I tend to, not look too much into it because I don't want to be spoiled by anything. I'd
yeah.
rather be surprised. And yeah,
Yeah, and even rumors could sometimes accidentally ruin things, even if they're not true. But yeah, I get that. Um,
exactly.
All right, then. Well, let's get into some spoilers now. Then, so this is your spoiler warning. For those of you who have not seen it, you may want to watch it and then come back. Or if you have seen it or you just don't care about spoilers, then yeah, we'll continue. But we are getting into as much detail as possible. So, yep, here we go. So, Mr. Sweet Bundy. Let me start with my typical question. What for you is what was, excuse me, the biggest standout of this movie? Like, what did you take away from this the most?
For me, honestly, it was just seeing Miles go from, this typical kid, and he was, introduced to this huge change, right? Getting bit by the spider and everything, getting the powers and instantly freaking out about it, not wanting to engage in it, but having to take on that responsibility. And was, for me at least, his mother was the one that, sparked that bravery in him. She was telling him, we don't run. And instead of him like wallowing in it and everything, he just took up the fight. He said, all right, I gotta do what I gotta do. And I love that attitude with this character. This guy, you know, even when stuff just seems bad, like he somehow finds an optimistic way about it and just keeps going forward. And you get to see how he got that personality. He got it from his parents. The relationship with his parents, man, from this one to the sequel is just, it's so strong. I love the relationship between him and you know, Peter B. It's awesome. Like
Mm.
I even though and I like him and Gwen as well. I love that, that friendship, relationship, whatever it is between them. I love it. Overall, the characters, man, I can't believe how well written they are, and I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that you have these writers that were involved in this that knew how to make dialogue seem believable and make it work, and nobody felt out of place. Nothing. Not one person, in my opinion, felt out of place or it was awkward. I was like, I don't like that. Almost every character got a chance to, show some heart. Almost every character got a chance to show some heart and everything and show their value and why they were memorable.
Mm. Yeah, no, for sure. I think for me, there was a definitely a heavy focus on family and different types of family.
Yeah.
You have the family that you're born with. You also have the family that you choose, and then you have the family that chooses you. you know, um, and yeah, I think it was definitely a big focus of family. You mentioned about between Miles and Peter B and not wanting to call it father son relationship, and I feel like it kind of is in some respects, and maybe not full on father son relationship, but there definitely is the older Peter and the younger Peter, and showing him the ropes, but it's very much more like a deadbeat dad, kind of guy, because like he doesn't really want to do it at the beginning. He's a bit he's kind of let himself go a bit. He's kind of given up himself quite a bit. So part of the journey is him believing in himself again, because everything that he's teaching Miles is really things that he needs to tell himself, and by the time he gets to the end, when they talk about taking a leap of faith, because he was really scared. He was so scared to go back to his own universe because he's scared he's messed up again. But just what, like he told Miles, is like, you don't know if you're going to be ready. You don't know. You just have to take a leap of faith, and that was kind of this theme that they had. So
Yeah.
just as Miles was learning from older Peter, from Peter B, Peter B was learning from Miles, but perhaps without realizing it. So yeah, I do feel there was kind of almost a father son relationship in that as well. But what I thought was interesting is the loss of an uncle, but also the gain of an aunt. Because like his uncle, gets killed, right?
Mhm.
But he finds an aunt in that, so he still has. So although because his uncle was like, his dad was like trying to do the best for him, trying to get him to these good schools, and all that kind of stuff, like typical kind of parent thing. But his uncle, for me, represented that guy that sees beyond that and was really kind of pushing his more creative sides, like his seeing the real Miles and trying to bring that out more, right? And so Miles and the relationship they had with his uncle, I just felt was like this really kind of genuine connection that you have, because like when people see you in a way that your parents maybe don't or refuse to, or have difficulty seeing, because they want this thing that they see as what success is, and they're not really getting past that. But you then have this other person who kind of sees beyond the academics, and you like this creative, this artist, this expressive person. They see that, and not only they accept that, they encourage it. That's who the uncle was to him, I felt. So him dying was, of course, like devastating. But then he
Yeah.
meets Aunt May, and Aunt May sees him as because him being Spider-Man. So they're seeing him. They're both seeing like a side of him that his parents don't see. That is so trying to intrinsic to who he is. So yeah, like, I thought that was a kind of. I mean, to be fair, they don't delve too much into that, especially with the aunt side. But it's kind of something that I thought was interesting, that he loses an uncle, but he gains an aunt, and just in kind of both seeing a side of him that his parents don't see, but different sides of him that his parents don't see.
No, I get what you mean.
Or his
The
dad,
relationship,
rather. Maybe his mum sees it a little bit, but certainly his dad's not really there.
yeah. Um, but you know, for me, that whole relationship between Miles and Aaron, his uncle, um, it's you see it all the time, or at least I see it all the time, where with your father, or your parents, or whatever, it's you have to behave a certain way.
Hmm.
They're expecting you to uphold yourself a certain way, especially at his age. When it comes to like aunts and uncles, you get to be a little more lax, depending on
Okay.
who they are. So generally speaking, you know, you get to be more of yourself. You don't have to watch your mouth too much. You don't have to worry about doing this, exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
Hmm.
And I like that. I like that we got the opportunity to see Miles relax and pretty much so to speak, let his hair down and um,
Yeah.
be himself, be a little bit more of himself. Not that he couldn't be himself around his parents, but he had to be well
Yeah.
behaved
Yeah.
because
Because
his
you run
his
see
parents
so.
was
Yeah.
not playing that, especially his mother.
Something just occurred to me actually. Because I mean, you live in New York, and
Yeah,
Spider-Man is set in New York, and just what you said about uncles and stuff, and it just kind of occurred to me that, um, I mean, my family's Nigerian, West African. So when it comes to like being around, whether it's your parents or your uncles, there's no difference. Like you're expected to behave a certain way regardless of who you're around, but maybe even more so around your uncles because they're going to tell your parents. So it kind of occurred to me that that's a very cultural difference that
yeah, it
that
is.
I wouldn't have experienced, because for me it was like, you're around your parents, you got to be well behaved. If you're around your uncles or your aunties, you kind of be well behaved. Even the cool auntie, the cool uncles, you still could be well behaved because they will talk. They will talk. So yeah, okay, so that's something that I guess don't have a personal experience with, but I guess that's more common. I'm somewhat assuming now that's something that's a normal thing in New York. Then.
Yeah, at least from my experience. I can't speak for everyone, but from my experience, um, just says, I mean, you got when New York is so there's so many, different cultures.
Mm,
Like you got Caribbeans, you have Asians, and et cetera, et cetera. But for me, right, that was the dynamic. So it was easy for me to resonate. I mean, all of this resonated with me um, because I've experienced firsthand what it's like to, have that family dynamic of, you have your parents, they're going to be strict, typically strict, and then you have your aunts and uncles, they're more relaxed. Eh, I've seen it plenty of times, even with my own parents. I've seen the relationship between their parents, my grandparents, and then their aunts and uncles, and the differences between that. It's cool. It's almost like, it's the way how Aaron and Miles are. That's typically what I see, and that's why I gotta say, like, hands down, uh yeah, they got it. They really did get it. The way how a lot of this is. I've seen, even if I didn't experience it firsthand, I've at least seen people go through, you know, what Miles went through, or like as far as the relationship. is
Mm.
with his parents and everything. I love it, man. Uh, Even the whole setting of New York, they really got it down pack. And I mean, in this one, you don't really get to see too much of New York, but you see enough to where, yeah, I could tell you they got it on point.
Mm. Okay. Um, so for with that then, like, I mean, because I mean, I've heard people talk about Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man games, and oftentimes it's been one of the things I've heard in other people's sort of reviews and things about not so just this Spider-Man specifically, but Spider-Man things in general. They talk about New York being like a its own character within the world, within the production, within the
Yeah.
the final product, the final movie, the final game, and so on. Um, is that something you would feel is true with this? That the setting, like the city, is almost like its own character within Spider-Man.
I mean, definitely. And that goes for almost any piece of fiction that you're going to have. If you have it set in New York and you don't take advantage of that, then you're doing yourself a disservice because me, I hate New York. I was born
Okay.
and raised here. I hate New York. However, um, you can't help but like if you see something and you're like, yeah, yeah, I know where that's at, or I know how that
Mm,
is. Um, once you have that connection, then you got that person. But if you don't have that connection, and you may as well not even say that's from New York. You may as well not even say where the setting is at that point if you're not going to take advantage of where it is. Because New York is one of those states where it's so familiar. You could see a picture of New York and know, yeah, that's New York. You can hear a couple people talk and know, okay, yeah, that's most likely in New York. You see it all the time when you're like on Twitter, for example, and you see clips and you're like, yeah, yeah, that had to be in New York. And that's what I'm talking about. You want to take advantage of it. It's like if it was in LA, you want to say you want to take advantage and show that it's actually in LA. Um, New York is a character,
yeah.
without a doubt. It makes me sick, but I can't deny that there are some things where I'm just like, man, yeah, all right, that was cool.
Yeah. Well, let's put just a tiny little pause on a Spider-Man talk for a second because you did say that you hate New York, and I think we gotta talk just a little bit about that just for a second because all right, I've been to New York years ago, and Grant it was only a 5-day trip, so I'm sure there's lots about New York that I don't know, and lots about New York that's even changed since I've been. But to me, New York was a pretty cool city, like, and I'm going as a tourist. Maybe I'm sure I don't see all the bad sides to it, but it seemed like a pretty cool city. And if it wasn't so expensive, I could it maybe feel like I could even live. But I mean, how do you hate New York? Like, how can you? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you got like the what's it call it, the Magnolia Bakery there. That's like worth a trip on its own. Come on now, you know, like how you hate New York?
So New York is a place that if you visit, you're like, oh man, there's so much to do. But when you live here and you grow up here and you have to deal with the ins and outs of it, oh yeah, trust me, that'll get old quick. Uh, we have so much shit going on here. Too many people, way too many people. It's literally human traffic on the streets sometimes. That you have to, maneuver around. There's real traffic. I don't even drive, and I get stuck in traffic. Just having to go to work, coming from work, or going to the store, coming from the store. There's stuff that's out of stock because too many people bought it. Everybody wants to eat this damn thing that you're looking to eat. Uh, and the stuff that's left over is already trash because the people don't care enough to change it. There's like New York is just so stupid, cold, dirty, stinky. I could go on and on. But again, if you have it in short doses, New York is a great place to go ahead and visit. Visit. But trust me, if you
Okay.
lived here, you'll be like, my God,
So,
enough.
So I guess in other words, Thanos was right. Just like you just need to snap and
Yeah,
help people disappear. You
yeah.
know.
They actually had an announcement, and I'm not going to go too much into it because then it gets into this whole political side. See, even right now,
What's
sirens in
that?
the background.
Hmm.
That's like a common that's a common sound in New York. Like it's so common that if you play Overwatch 2, they have a New York stage. And I'm bringing this up really quick because I dealt with this. If you're playing the New York stage on Overwatch 2, you'll hear sirens, right?
Okay.
On what
Okay.
and it drives me crazy because I know it's coming, but it always tricks me. Every time when the sirens happen, I move my headphones to so and it's crazy because I literally see the damn cop car on the map or whatever, you know, but I will still instinctively move that because that's how you have to be on point. You can't just sit back and be like da da da. Like no, if you're in New York, you have to be aware. You know, anybody who walks around aimlessly, not aware, is either a tourist or going to be probably a victim. So you
All
can't
right.
do that.
All right then. Well. I mean, yeah. I mean, when I was so yeah, I went to New York. I think this would have been 2000. I want to say 2005, six, around about then. And so yeah, quite some time ago now. And yeah, it was 5 days, short trip. Of course, I'm not seeing everything. And I know every place is gonna have its downsides. I mean, I live in London, so crime happens as well. And all kinds of stuff going on that you don't want to be involved with, and unfortunately, sometimes just happens right in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. When they're living in the city and visiting a city are two complete different things. Um, but yeah, I mean, I remember one of the feelings I had about New York is, I mean, it is quite expensive. Certainly, when I went, it was quite expensive. Like I paid for a stay in this hotel. It was in Manhattan. Was it? Yeah, pretty sure it was in Manhattan. Like on, I want to say the west side of Manhattan. Um, but it was like maybe upper west side, so like not like the fancy side of Manhattan, like it
Yeah.
was like on the like more the ghetto side of Manhattan, and even that was like it was expensive to get that hotel, you know.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, and I remember like walking through like like what do you call it, like Wall Street and those places where you've got all like the more fancier stuff, and the difference is just like crazy. Man? The difference is crazy. Like you're going from one part of town where it's like all run down, and everything. You walk a few blocks, and it's just like guys with like these sort of kind of those like top hat type things, and they're standing outside of hotels with those like royal looking dress things, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, all right, Trump Tower, back when people liked Trump, it was all like that,
Yeah.
and the bulls on Wall Street, or the Wall Street bulls, like all shiny and cleaned up and everything. It's like, all right, okay, it's the rich side of town now. They're cool. But to be fair, I think London could be like that as well. Like you walk in some places and it's all run down, messy, things just thrown around everywhere. No one seems to care about anything. You walk a few streets over and it's just like super posh and fancy, and it's like, man, it's just the same place. Like it could be like that as well. So yeah, life in a big city. But yeah, so getting back to Spider-Man, let's talk about Miles Morales' pops, Mr. Morales. What did you think of his character and the way he was portrayed and things like that?
Miles's father, you said?
Yeah.
First off, his voice actor, I love. I love his voice actor, Brian Henry. He was also in Atlanta and also Bullet Train. I didn't get to watch Bullet Train yet, but I plan on it. That actor is dope as hell. And his voice acting is actually surprisingly good. And I don't mean surprisingly in a demeaning way or whatever, but it's just it's not so often that you see, like, just because you're a good actor doesn't mean you could be a good voice actor. It's a
Sure.
different
Yeah.
dynamic. Some actors, they just work better with people in front of them rather than you're in a studio booth and just going off your lines like that. So, any actor that can do both, you're, multi-talented.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm really glad to see him in this role, and he just brings the character to life. I love the dynamic between Miles and his father. They didn't catch attitudes with each other really. Um, Even with the section where he thought that Miles was mad at him, he didn't go ahead and lose his temper and say, "Miles, you need to talk to me right now." Da-da. No, he
Mm,
talked to him gentle because I mean, granted, yeah, it involved the death of his uncle and everything, but still, um,
oh, brother.
Jefferson,
So
yeah,
yeah.
his brother, I mean, Jefferson, he, just a moment.
All right. Okay. So just waiting for Sweet Bundy to come back and complete his
I
thoughts. There we go.
apologize about
No,
that.
sorry.
So yeah, Jefferson, he was really gentle, patient with Miles, and took his time because that relationship between him and his son, you could tell it was obviously important, but he knew he didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that may have happened before. We don't know exactly the entire story um between him and Aaron,
Hmm.
right? We just know the basis of it. We don't know all the nitty ditty details between them of how they came to be at this point. But we could assume that maybe some tempers were lost, and it is what it is between them.
Mm,
So, but obviously they loved each other and they cared for each other and they were still family at the end of the day. And Jefferson is just showing like his development that he had prior to the movie, that hey, I don't want to go ahead, or rather no, not even prior to the movie, it's the death of his brother that made him realize like death is final. I'm not
mm,
going to get the chance to reconnect with my brother, and anything could happen. I don't want to lose this opportunity to mend this between us, whatever is going on. And I like that. I love you know those two together, and I love how Miles, went to hug him and everything, but he's as Spider-Man, so
yeah.
he's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Keep up the good work. Well, thanks, Spider-Man. Looking forward to working.
He's like, I love you. Yeah.
um, yeah, no, for sure. But I actually just need to make a quick correction because I said Mr. Morales. It's actually Mr. Davis, Jefferson Davis,
Yeah.
not the Jefferson Morales. Jefferson Davis. It's Luna Davis. Sorry, Luna. Sorry, Rio. I'm confusing the actor's name.
Rio
Rio
Morales.
Morales,
Mhm.
played by Luna Lauren Velez. But yeah, and Miles Morales. But yeah, Jefferson Davis. Which is an interesting thing in and of itself, actually. I guess come to think of it, because typically in a family it'd be the father's last name, um, but in this case it's the mother's last name. Um, but I'm not as familiar with Miles Morales from the comics, so I don't know if that's explained in any other previous comics or not, or later in the comics or not. But yeah, something interesting to do in a modern family setting. But yeah, certainly to what you said about Jefferson Davis and his relationship with Miles, about not being too authoritative. Like on one hand, you see him in the beginning where it's like he's like, okay, he wants the best for his son. He wants to take him to this school, and he say, you gotta stay there, all that kind of stuff, because you gotta. He doesn't want him to end up like your uncle Aaron. Perhaps you kind of get the impression that even just from the film, and that there's something happened between him and Aaron, between Jefferson and Aaron, that is perhaps irreparable. Or maybe it is repairable, but they're maybe too egotistical to repair it themselves. But something's
Yeah.
happened between them. Um, because he, of course, Miles is like, well, what's wrong with Uncle Aaron? And he doesn't really want to say. So something's gone down, but we don't know what it is, and maybe we'll never know what it is. But yeah, he's like that in the beginning, where he's like, he just wants the best for his son, which is typical of any parent. But then at the times where it's, and even like, when he needs to be softer, like there's a part where, when Miles is kind of coming back home, he's saying, can he stay here? And he almost doesn't really want to do it, but it's only because the mother was like, let him stay, and you see that the kind of more softer side coming out of him. And, when Aaron dies and then he goes to see him, and there was a line that he said, which I just thought was so beautiful and amazing. And it kind of works out because, Miles is just tied up anyway. But when he says to him, I love you, you don't have to say it back, And I just thought that's such an amazing line because, like, when you say at the beginning, oh, you got to say it back, you got to say it back. And it's one of these things where you don't realize, I mean, I say you, I'm really talking about myself when I say that. But you don't realize how little you say those sorts of things until, maybe one of your parents passes away, because like because when you're a kid and you kind of like, man, that's silly. We don't do that. We don't, no. Wait, I ain't no pansy, blah blah blah. That's silly. That's girly, whatever. That's how you are when you're a kid. You don't say that sort of stuff. But as you get older, you kind of realize the value of saying it and saying it enough, because there comes a time when you can't say it anymore, and yeah, so when he was just like, I love you, I say it back, he's making him say it back. It's a funny scene, but at the same time, it's an important scene. But then when Aaron passes and he's like, I love you, you don't have to say it back, just recognizing that he needs to kind of process his own feelings about it, because of course he doesn't know that he knows, right? So he just recognizes he needs to process his own feelings about it, and this isn't the time to maybe make him say it. This is the time to, allow him to feel what he feels, and to be quiet if he needs to be quiet, or to cry if he needs to cry, or to just to feel whatever he feels. And of course, lo and behold, those are the words that help him break out of his web tied up and become the Spider-Man he needs to be. But yeah, no, their relationship was, I want to say, like, the type of relationship I think a lot of people wish they had with their fathers, where you have somebody who pushes you, but at the same time isn't so overbearing to the point where you can't turn to them, and I guess that's kind of the balance that he's trying to maintain, where he needs to be able to try to give his son the benefit of perhaps his mistakes, the lessons from his mistakes, and to push him in a direction that he knows that could take it, that will lead him away from making some of those mistakes, but at the same time not to be so forceful and so strict and so stubborn that Miles just never wants to come to him, and not that I can speak as a parent, but I assume that that's a difficult balance to try to strike, to try to maintain, or to try to achieve in life. I mean, of course, in a movie you can write what you want, but in real life, that's going to be a lot difficult to do that. But yeah, I feel like that's the type of relationship a lot of people wish they had with their parents. That's just kind of encouraging but not overbearing,
Yeah. And I like I said, the way how they wrote this father, they didn't, stick with tropes. And I mean, of course, you can't avoid certain tropes, but the writing seemed more genuine and more heartfelt than, hey, let's just have this funny character, this character in place. We know what this character is supposed to be about, and that's that. No, this character is pretty much fleshed out. And anytime they're on the screen, it doesn't feel like they're dragging things on. No, it's like every scene they were involved in, it helped me, learn more and feel like, I became more immersed in the movie anytime we got to slow down, show that, like, little bit of slice of life kind of thing going on, you know, this relationship building between them, and help me understand the characters more, especially Miles Morales, which is, pretty much the most important part is bonding with this character, telling his story, understanding him, and why he's doing the things he does and why he says the things he does.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um. So with that, then, like, in we talked about Peter B, and then we talked
Mhm.
about Jefferson Davis. Um, would you feel like between like Miles's relationship with his father, and Miles's relationship with Peter B. Parker, um, would you feel like Miles was getting from Peter that he perhaps wasn't getting from his father?
Nah, it's like how you said. For you, it's Miles lost his uncle but gained an aunt. For me, it's like Miles lost his uncle Aaron but gained Uncle Peter. You know,
Okay, yeah.
and you see this relationship between them, and everything. And I had said before, like a older brother, you know and little brother, but just like how you had that Uncle Aaron and Miles relationship, they could be interpreted as older brother, little brother too, because in a way, a lot of times in situations like that, because I've seen it before, where your parents arguing with your uncle or your aunt, but you're not, so you're still, it's all family, so you're still able to hang out with them. It's just that they're not talking. I've been in awkward positions like that so many times. um and in a way, it's about certain things where, I mean, certain times where you could go ahead and feel like, all right, that feels like more like my older sibling, and then other times, okay, that's my aunt or uncle right now. So, um I- with Pete and Miles, um they're both learning from each other. Miles is obviously learning what he needs to learn from Pete, but Pete is also learning from Miles as far as, okay, I have to be a better person and everything. And I feel like Aaron would have had that same turnaround too, had they had the time and opportunity to. But unfortunately, Kingpin was, I don't know why the hell he did that. That was
Mm.
crazy. Just
Should
out of
give him a
nowhere, just
bulletproof bulletproof shirt or something though. Like this guy
that is,
prowling at
yeah.
night. So why don't you have a bulletproof vest or something? Like you mad?
It shows his arrogance. He's like, I'll never be touched. Or maybe Kingpin specifically, maybe Kingpin was the one that gave him the suit. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
And purposely, had that weakness or whatever.
Mm.
So that could be a theory. But because I don't think Aaron was making money like that to build a whole damn suit. But who knows? I could be totally wrong.
I mean, you're
You
working
know,
for the Kingpin. You kind of got to be getting paid, right? I mean, otherwise, why do it?
I
I
feel
mean,
like
maybe not
you never
millionaire
want to
level,
give
but you could be
people
paying a lot.
money. Yeah, you never want to give too much money. And I don't think Aaron's
Sure,
gonna be
yeah.
I think Aaron's gonna be put, with how expensive New York is, all that money could be going to rent.
He has a nice apartment too, as well. Like he has a pretty nice apartment, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
that can't be cheap.
yeah. Not at all. Also real quick, the artwork, like when they went to go and spray paint, really, really good. I love that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of artwork, actually, there's a scene, a shot rather, in the movie where Miles Morales is, I think he's like towards the end, or maybe after halfway anyway, I'm sure. But there's a scene where it's when he's as the proper Miles Morales, darker Spider-Man suit, not the cosplay Spider-Man suit, where he has like the proper Miles Morales Spider-Man suit, the black red one.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where he's jumping off some of the buildings and he's falling, but the way they show the shot, even though he's falling, he's actually on screen. He's like, upways, and the city
Yeah.
is upside down. Um, right, and it looks so cool, like such an amazing shot. That
Yeah.
I mean, I think they might have used it on some of the posters as well.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. It's one of the most iconic shots of
oh,
all time.
yeah, you know the one I'm talking about, where
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's upside down,
It
but he's
looks
not
like he's
upside down, but
flying.
it's yeah. Yeah, that is such a cool shot, man. Like, I mean, whoever did that, like, that is an amazing shot. Like, it looks cool. It very much like captured that moment as well of him being Miles Morales, and the city and everything. And I'm not sure I'm even explaining everything that shot does, but I'm sure I'm not explaining it very well. But it just felt like that shot signified so much in that moment of who he is and who he's become and what he has to
Yeah,
do, and all of that. And it was, yeah, it's an amazing shot. So yeah, big up to whoever did that. That's, yeah.
absolutely. I feel like it's left to interpretation pretty much. Some people could see it as direct symbolism, and again, it's all about perspective. I could come up with a million things of what I think it represents, and then somebody else could say a bunch of million things differently. So I really enjoy that. It's not all in your face of like, yeah, 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 you know what this means. Like the trope
Mm.
of when you have your main character spreading out their arms, they call it the Jesus pose or whatever. Yeah, like that's direct. But with this one, is different. It could be left in so many ways, or it could have just been an artistic choice. Could have
Mm.
just been like, hey, this is cool, or this is when things are being flipped over. So many ways you could
Yeah,
put it.
yeah, yeah,
Or rising to the occasion. This is Spider-Man rising up. A new Spider-Man rises.
yeah,
It's so many ways that you can interpret it.
yeah. No, indeed, I like that actually, especially because although he's falling because it's upside down, he's going upwards. So yeah,
Yeah,
he is who he needs to be and rising to the occasion, or at least yeah.
yeah,
Um, but let's talk a little bit about the Kingpin actually, because he was quite an interesting character, I thought. Um, in his motivations of wanting to build the was it a hyper collider thing, um, like he was willing to risk destroying universes to bring his wife and kid back.
yeah,
Um, I mean that there's like a lot of things that are just clearly wrong with that, right? But he was so. But then I guess that underneath it all, the truth is that he was so in love with them, or so in love with his wife, or loved them so much that he just couldn't be without them, and he was willing to risk it. Now, I know that kind of makes it sound romantic, but it's also a lunacy there as well, that he's literally willing to risk destroying universes to just bring these people back, and it's not even going to be them anyway. Um, what did you think of the Kingpin and his portrayal in this movie?
For me, I feel like his motivation was understandable. Um, Based on who he is and how we know generally the character is, he's a villain that's used to getting what he wants, how he wants, no matter what. If it costs money, he'll get the money.
Hmm.
If he got to go ahead and steal it from you, he'll steal it from you. Whatever he has to do, he'll get what he wants by any means. And I feel like no matter what anyone said to him logically, right? Even Spider-Man
Hmm.
kind of connected with him. He's just in denial about it. I don't
Mm.
think he's like honestly thinking, okay, the universe is going to break. I think he is so arrogant and so desperate to get what he wants that he's not going to listen to anything else. He's going to be like, listen, this is what I need to get. Need to do in order to get what I want. And what I want is my family back. And on top of all that, he's wrapped with guilt. He's the reason why they're dead. Him fighting and everything, he tries to blame it on Spider-Man, but I'm kind of glad they didn't really push it in that direction because he could have easily turned around and been like, "Oh, they're dead because of you. They're dead because of you." But he didn't do that. He just,
Mm.
I need to get them back. This is what I need to do to get them back, and that's it. I love that. I'm so thankful that the writers didn't go in that previous direction, you know, because that's something what you would expect to see. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing. It's just that we've seen it so many times before.
Mm.
We've seen it in Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 2 is one of the greatest films of all time, at least when it comes to comic book characters.
Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man. Wait. Spider-Man 2
With
was
Tobey Maguire
Tobey
Spider-Man 2,
Maguire. Who was the villain in Spider-Man 2 again? It was
Doc
Doc
Ock.
Ock. Doc Ock. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he thought, remember his wife died, and he was blaming Peter. He was like, "It's your
Yes.
fault if you didn't show up." But it's like, bro, you saw that shit was going out of whack. That's why Spider-Man showed up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So arrogance coming through. You can't allow it to blame yourself. You can't.
yeah,
Your ego won't let you blame yourself. So it has to be somebody else's fault. And
yeah,
then you focus your attention and blame on them when deep down you just screwed up. You
yeah,
know it.
exactly. And that's why I like about this villain. He fucked up, and he's mad. He's upset. Who knows how he feels? But he's just, nobody better get in my way. I don't care. He's ruthless, and
Mm.
I'm shocked. I was shocked that they killed OG Spider-Man like that. I say OG
Yeah.
Spider-Man as in, in Miles universe,
Yeah.
OG Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked that they killed him like that. Yeah. And it was sad because regardless of which, that Spider-Man, he wasn't begging for his life. He was just trying to, snap him out of it, snap Kingpin out of it, and be like, listen, you can't, this is not going to work. He was more afraid for, the destructions that's going to happen rather than him dying, because he could have easily been like, please don't do this, don't, you're going to, all that. He didn't plead for his life. He was just like trying to tell him,
Mhm.
no matter what you do, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Stop this. And that was that.
Yeah.
And even with Miles, he didn't even try to get Miles to save him. He said, listen, you have to go and do this in order to save everyone. And that's that. He could have easily tried to say, Miles, try to get this stuff off me, something. Because he knows that, they have the same abilities. At this point, Miles does have some
Yeah.
super strength. So that was also interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I would say that I did feel the character design of Kingpin felt a bit odd. Like he's so huge and disproportionate. Especially like we look at a lot of the other characters, where I mean, even like Miles' dad Jefferson, like he's kind of a big up top, little at the bottom a little bit, but a lot of the characters generally feel regular proportioned, and then you got the Kingpin, who's just this massive thing with a little dot for a head, and it's like, I mean, it's not doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but it just feels like an odd choice to me. But yeah, anyway, aside from that, though, yeah, no, I liked what they did with the Kingpin's character. In fact, I liked how they introduced him. Where he kind of comes in and he's kind of like humming a song or something. He's like, "Boop-be-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo." It just felt so that what he would do. He just felt that's what Kingpin would do. Just kind of walk strolling in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved it because as far as I know, with the comics and everything, he's this huge, massive dude, and somehow he could go toe to toe with some of these superhero characters like Daredevil, Spider-Man, and so on and so forth. Because he's so huge and massive, he's a mix, crazy mix of fat and muscle all together to create this, you know, fearful, large, huge being. And you see it in live action and everything, and they do force perspective to, really, and of course, get large actors to appear, like this towering man. But with this animation, you have way more freedom. You don't have to rely on makeup or whatever camera angles. You do this whole different unique design, and that's something that's going to stay in your head. How large he was. So when
Yeah.
he takes out Spider-Man, it's believable. Like when he hit Spider-Man like that, I was like, oh my God. It wasn't like, if it was anything, any other time, any other type of character design, really, if they made it less, I probably would have been like, man, Spider-Man could make it out there. Initially, I probably would have thought that. Like Spider-Man could make it, or he's gonna probably still be alive or something. But after that, I was like, nah, he's dead. Like instantly, he's dead.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, good
Yeah.
night. Good night.
And you know what, too? It made him more intimidating, in my opinion,
Yeah, no, I
because
guess there's
he's
truth to that. Yeah.
walking and he looks like a fucking wall walking, like a big moving wall. Like, I love his design. But it is weird, but weird in a good way, in my opinion,
Yeah,
because
no,
it is
that's fair.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is different from a lot, but I love it.
I guess though the question it kind of raises though is that if all it took for him to do was take out Spider-Man was to whack him in the chest, that you couldn't do this before. Like,
I think it
what
was a matter of the
all this
combination of
time?
everything that happened.
Yeah, because like
The fact that what happened?
no, I was just saying like because you got to imagine that they fought before, right? And I guess we have to believe that that's the first time Spider-Man was like down like that, like. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like that's the first in all the. However, I mean, that of course they don't specify, but we assume that it's been years of Spider-Man and Kingpin before this movie started, and whatever encounter you have, that's the first time you had him where he can just hit him, and he's like, all right, well, there you go.
now I honestly believe that's what happened. I think that everything lined up, and that was just you know, the perfect opportunity that Spider-Man finally ran out of luck, because he was dealing with not just any Green Goblin, but that ultimate Green Goblin. In the comics, that was the same kind of Green Goblin that killed him. They had
Oh,
this
yeah,
storyline.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they had this crazy storyline called Superior Spider-Man, where
Okay, yeah.
you heard of it?
No, but
Okay,
this is all new to me. But I didn't know about the massive Green Goblin in the comics. Okay, well,
yeah. So Green Goblin was big like that. It's a long story, but main point, the climax is this: um, they had a huge Green Goblin, and Pete was trying to do all these things at once, like save everybody and fight this huge motherfucker at the same time. And he got to I forgot how he defeats Green Goblin, but he manages to do it. However, he ends up dying anyway.
hmm.
Um, I might be, you know, if anyone's listening, and if you just realize that I'm mixing two stories in together, I'm sorry. I know for sure
Sorry.
Green Goblin kills him, but
Yeah.
it may not be part of the Superior Spider-Man storyline, because I think that one is a different storyline where Spider-Man dies too.
Okay.
Yeah, Superior Spider-Man is actually something you might want to look into if you're interested. It basically, somehow Doc Ock got to switch bodies with Pete. Yeah, I did get it mixed up. Doc Ock got to switch bodies with Pete, and then Pete ends up dying as Doc Ock, right? Because at that point his body was ravaged with cancer, I believe. And so Doc Ock gets to live on as Pete, and he becomes, he's still Spider-Man, but he calls himself Superior Spider-Man.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
but
just
Green
looking at some of
Goblin,
the pictures. Yeah.
yeah.
It's quite a
But
long series, like 33, 40, like maybe about 50 books. This 50 comic books in this series.
it's actually good from what I haven't gotten to like sit down and read issue by issue, but I really do plan on doing that because it from the little stories that I've read about it, it's really interesting. But yeah, that big ass Green Goblin killed Spider-Man in the comics, or led to his death. So
Okay.
yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Yep."
Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's over. Yep.
And then he had to fight Prowler, and he had to try to, it was so many things he was dealing with at once. So it makes sense. And then
Yeah.
also you have to see it as a way of fate. Like, you know, unfortunately, Miles got that power, and you know, it, yeah.
Mm.
Let's just
Yeah.
stop it there because they go into more of this stuff in the sequel as well.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, we won't
Hmm.
do too much about that one just yet.
Yeah,
Um. Okay. Well, let's. Well, before we, I guess, that's a good segue into what we'll ask next, which is rather than go into the future, let's go back because we talked about Origins a little while ago. I think Origins was mentioned, and there's definitely a lot of origin stories in Into the Spider Verse, which I thought was interesting because like one of the biggest complaints that Spider-Man movies have had is that they always have origin stories. From Tobey Maguire had an origin story, Andrew Garfield had an origin story, and it's kind of like, well, we all know the origin story, and of course, by the time Tom Holland comes around, they kind of skip that bit. But I just thought it was an interesting choice because Miles Morales is, of course, the Spider-Man that maybe not everybody knows, right? Of course, everybody knows Peter Parker; he's the most famous one, but not everybody knows about Miles Morales unless you're a bit more geeky or just happen to know somebody's a bit more geeky. So of course you need an origin story for Miles Morales, but then we also
yeah.
get origin stories for, every other Spider-Man in there as well. Um, how did you feel about the multiple origin stories in this movie?
I liked it. It was cool the way how they did it. Any other time, like if I wasn't enjoying the characters, if I wasn't enjoying the style and everything, I would have been annoyed.
Hmm.
Needless to say, but um, no, I enjoyed it. I liked, I thought it was funny how each one was like, all right, so let's do this one last time. And I think at one point, I forgot who it was. It must have been the damn pig. You were
Yeah.
like, all right, enough.
Spider Ham. Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked it. I liked it. And plus, even if you know about the story, you may not know because there's so many different versions of each character. Like Gwen, especially. Gwen
Hmm.
has so many damn different versions of herself. They even have a version of her where she's the new Deadpool.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gwen is a very complicated character when it comes to the comics. So it's essential with her, and even Spider Man. Um, you could get the typical Spider-Man, Aunt May, Uncle Ben, done, right? But then you got, as you see already, there's so many different versions of Spider-Man, like or Peter Parker, I should say.
Yeah, no, for sure. I had no issue with the origins coming up. I thought definitely in this movie it made a lot of sense to do it as well. But just in general, I personally didn't feel there was ever an issue with doing origin stories because as much as I know Spider Man and well, I know the origins of Spider Man, you know the origins of Spider Man, and I'm sure I'm not as familiar with Spider-Man these days as I used to be back in the day. But I know about Peter Parker, I know about Uncle Ben and so on, and just as a lot of people do. But then there's always gonna be people who don't, and
Yeah,
for me, I just feel like as long as you can tell a great story, regardless of whether it's an origin story or not, sometimes you need that, and even if you have heard it before, sometimes you've always things you can do differently. There's always something you can tell, and I think this movie in particular had a really interesting and cool way of retelling you something that you already know in a way that you maybe haven't seen before and doing it multiple times, but still having it so that it's fun, that it makes sense, that it's not just there for the sake of filler. It's there's multiple Spider-Men, or Spider-Women, there's Spider-Animals, that there's
yeah,
so many, and it kind of gives this idea, and there's more that aren't even in this movie, so like it gives a kind of an idea of this vast multiverse, and I feel like this movie, and I know MCU in general is kind of doing a whole multiverse thing now, but I think that this movie for me kind of gave a more I don't know if full is the right word to use, but certainly gave it a more gravity to the idea of multiverse and traveling between dimensions than some of the other Marvel movies have done so far. Just and there are so many different Spider-Men in this, and they all have their slight variations of origins, and even like timing. Like Spider-Man Noir setting in like was it the 50s or something, and then of course you had like future Peter Parker of 20 whatever it was, Spider Gwen, Spider Ham, Peter Porker, so like, and his whole world's like cartoon. So, and that's another thing as well. We could talk about like we want to talk as well about animation styles. But for now, just like it kind of gave like a very kind of it's idea of the multiverse being so vast,
Yeah.
which to my mind, I mean, maybe Doctor Strange a little bit did it, but to my mind, I feel like most of the other even Spider-Man No Way Home, which was great. I even that felt like it wasn't fully exploring the multiverse as much as this did, and this really kind of like this is huge. This is huge. Like every choice you make, every variation, every kind of scenario, even unthink it's huge. So like, yeah, I feel like the origin stories and the multiple origin stories, and they knew they were doing it a lot because they kind of cut it off themselves a little bit as well. They knew they were doing a lot, but it made
Yeah.
sense. And for me, it's not about no, not another origin story. It's can you do it where that it makes sense, where you can still have it interesting, we can still have it fun, and not just be something that's just there just to be there. So yeah, I feel like they did that in this one.
Yeah, they did.
But yeah, let's talk about the animation as well. Because you mentioned a little bit about animation before, about the movements and things. But there are a few different animation styles in this movie, which is another interesting thing about it, because most of it, um, I don't know if cell shaded is the right word to use, but most of it had of course it's in the Miles Morales universe, so that has that style. But
Mhm.
yeah, you do have like different styles with especially with Peter Porker and Spider Noir, maybe the more obvious ones. But yeah, there's slight variations in the styles in and things like that. Which of course again adds to the whole multiverse thing. But yeah, that's something I noticed as well. But what did you feel about that as a creative choice?
I think it was unique, and it made sense because sometimes when you have crossover episodes, right, or crossover movies, when it comes to animation, at least, it becomes a little awkward if they don't change the. I mean, if they have to change the style, like, okay, we have to put this character in a new dimension, pretty much.
Hmm.
Um, it comes off a little awkward at times. Sometimes it works, like when you have let's see, what's one that did it well? The Fairy Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron back in the day. They did a crossover episode, so
Hmm.
we got to see Jimmy Neutron in the style of Fairy Odd Parents and vice versa. Now,
Okay.
in my opinion, it was fucking creepy as hell to see Timmy Turner in 3D, but it was cool to see Jimmy Neutron in 2D, right? That's a case where it doesn't really work or whatever, and it kind of works in the same show. But then I've also seen this before with TMNT recently. Um, I, I'm not sure if it was done around the same time, if it was done before, done after. I don't know. But one of the crossover with TMNT had the different generations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We had the originals where it was the comic strip ones in the, black and white. We got to see them in that same exact animation style, right? Over in the movie. Then we got to see the ones from the 1980s and all that, the ones I grew up on,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also whichever Ninja Turtles they had elsewhere. I forgot if they had another generation in there, but that was cool. So it was, we seen it work before. So to see it work again in this movie is great, and yeah, I can't wait for you to see the sequel.
Mm.
I,
Yeah, I'm gonna see the sequel. You know,
I'll say this much, and it's not a spoiler, but if you thought the art was good in this movie, you're gonna be blown away in the next. Because it's like they said, okay, you know what? They loved it. Go ahead, do whatever you want.
All right, cool. Good to know. Good to know. Um, and actually, with not so much the animation style, but I guess some of the creative choices they made as well, just being based on the comic, and they definitely had some comic book inspirations in this movie. Something I noticed though, and I want to ask you about it to see if you spot this as well, because I feel like the first time I watched this movie, I can't remember which platform I watched it on. I think it might have been Amazon or something. I really don't remember. But recently, it's been on Netflix. It came to Netflix, at least in the UK. Netflix. It came to Netflix. I think the last weeks, month, maybe. And so I've been watching it there as preparation for the podcast. And something that I noticed is that a lot of in fact, even maybe even most or all of like the text on screen, not text on screen, but like like not the what do you call it, the panels that comic book has, like those yellow kind of square panels that comic books have. When
Yeah.
they would appear on screen, they'd be in German. Now, I it kind of threw me a little bit because I was thinking it was that a creative choice, or was that just because it was a German version of the movie? Like
I must
because
say,
you know what I mean? Because I was thinking it could be
I
just that Netflix has the German edit, and that's why that's there. But because I was feel like I from what I remember watching the first time, I don't think I spotted that. Because usually when you watch your stuff, it's in English, and at least when you watch stuff in England, it's in English. So you don't really pay much attention to that sort of stuff because you're just used to seeing it. But this time watching, that's German. So I don't know if that was like it's German anyway, or whether Netflix just happened to get the German version of the film, and then yeah. So I don't know. Is that something you spotted, or
hell no.
okay?
Unless I wasn't paying attention or something, and I doubt it, but I think they just got the German version because that's
Yeah.
crazy. I
I
think
mean,
they were trying to hypnotize you or something, or
yeah.
brainwash you.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a problem, of course, because they have the English subtitles, so you could, understand what they're
I
saying,
mean, I
and
guess, but
yeah,
still, that sounds fishy.
yeah, and the
Like
voices are,
subliminal messaging.
yeah, the voices were the original English recordings, so it has that, and so yeah, and I guess probably why I didn't even spot it right away because like you're hearing it in English, and then like when these texts, those panels come up, and they're like, wait a minute, that's German, and then I noticed it again, and then even like when the credits started rolling, like some of it was in German, and I was like, okay, I
Nah,
think
yeah.
Netflix might be having a German version, like not a problem, not a problem, but it was just like, all right,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, it happened to Butters from South Park one time where he just started. He after he finished reading Catcher in the Rye, he said, "Kill John Lennon,
Yeah.
kill John Lennon."
Hey, you're not catching the right. I don't know if you read that book, but yeah, that is a good book, and apparently it did inspire some people to go try commit murder as well. So
Yeah.
I've read the. Have you read the book, by the way? Did Catch an Eye?
Once, and that was when I was forced to. So I did
All right.
not take anything from it besides that this guy really hates life.
Yeah, he doesn't like. Well, I won't say he hates life, but yeah, he definitely just hates phoniness and a lot of how people behave around him. It's actually set in New York as well, so you
Oh wow,
might
there
relate
you
to it a
go.
bit more now. You might relate to it a bit more now if you read it again. But yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books actually. But yeah, apparently some people read it and tried to kill people. So be careful, be careful. um, let's see. I'm just checking my notes of yeah. So yeah, with Miles Morales and the suit. And even just I guess a lot of them as well. They show their faces a lot in this movie. Like Miles Morales tends to take his mask off a lot, and granted, like it's mostly I guess it's at times where you're not likely to be seen, but other times I'm like I'm sure somebody's seeing you, dude. Like yeah,
Yeah.
somebody's somewhere seeing you. Like maybe not immediately, maybe a bit far away, but somebody's seeing you. And even like Spider Gwen taking a mask off when they were in the forest after they got the um computer from Olivia. It's like somebody might see you. This might not be the place for this. And you got like Peter B. Parker. He's got his mask up when they're on the bus, and he's got a Spider-Man suit underneath. Granted, their version of Peter Parker just died, so maybe nobody's spotting that. They might just think he's just wearing a costume. But still, it's
Yeah.
like they take their mask off a lot in this movie, and that kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure that's such a smart thing to do.
No, I agree, but I think at least in this movie, it's more excusable. Like with Spider Gwen, she, she's in a whole different timeline or multiverse, whatever. So it doesn't matter. They can see her a million times. Nobody's gonna know who the hell she is.
Hmm.
But even then, one of the interesting parts that got me a little more laxed on it was this. In the comics, one of the iterations, they had a scene where Vulture captures Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like all fucked up. He's in the hospital, but they still got the mask on him to, protect his identity, or his face is bandaged up at least or something. And then Vulture grabs him, pulls him out, and he's like, I'm finally gonna see who the hell you are. All these years of you tormenting me and stopping me from achieving, my shit or whatever. And he rips it off. And then he's like distraught to see that he doesn't know who the hell he is. He's like, like everything I've went through with you, you turned out to be a nobody. I don't even know who the hell you are. And he just drops him. And you know what? Ever since then, I'm like, that is the most realistic thing when it comes to this whole superhero thing. Because unless you're somebody like Batman, where
Yeah,
the moment somebody sees, in fact, it's more unrealistic that Batman's only covering half his face.
yeah,
Because TMZ, any internet conspiracy theorist would have figured it out. Riddler being the one to really figure out Batman's identity multiple times, if I'm not mistaken, did shit like that. So, when it comes to Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, who's a nobody in New York that has so many people that look alike and look similar, everything. Yeah, if somebody saw Spider-Man's face, they're gonna be like, all right, he's a white guy. But you don't even know that. Or even
hmm.
Miles Morales, he's not just black, he's also Puerto Rican. So you can't even say. You could just say, yeah, he's black, Spider-Man's black, or Spider-Man's white.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I guess they did it in. I think it was Spider-Man 2. I can't remember which one. I know one of the Tobey Maguire ones where the one when he's on a train, he's stuck
Oh
on a
yeah,
train,
yeah.
and then his
Spider-Man
mask
2.
comes off, and they all look at him. But of course, yeah, they don't know who he is. It's like he's just some kid,
Yeah,
just he looks. I think when somebody says something like he's not much older than my son, you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like you're right. I mean, and then there's like Peter Parker isn't a famous guy. He's not Bruce Wayne. I mean, even Clark Kent has like some kind of fame in his world as a reporter. But yeah, generally, he's just a regular. He's just another kid in New York. If you saw his face, it's like he's just. You might see him a million times and probably just walk past him and don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would make sense that if the average person saw him, unless you happen to know him, like, as teachers or whatever, you can, oh, okay, well, just another kid, just another kid off the streets, That said, but still, cover your face, like, you don't know, you don't know, and because that's one of the things about Peter Parker as well, is that from the comics and why he covers his face is that if his identity is ever discovered, the people who are close to him could be hurt as a way of getting to him. That was like the biggest reason he covers. And granted, yeah, most people won't even know who he is that chance that somebody might. And if they figure it out, his aunt could be in danger. His, Mary Jane could be in danger. His friends, they could be in danger. People might try to hurt them as a way of hurting him. So that's always the reason. That was the biggest reason why he'd always cover his face, regardless. So yeah, I mean, Miles being a new Spider-Man might not have a full grasp of that, but that's definitely
Yeah.
something he's gonna have to learn. That you might be just another kid in town that most people won't know, that one person who does, or that one person who figures it out, and that's your dad in danger. That could be your mum in danger. That's your friends, and that sort of thing. So I don't know. Maybe, well, don't say nothing. Maybe in future movies that becomes a thing. But yeah, it certainly felt a bit odd in this one. But then at the same time, to be fair, he is new and he is learning and he is discovering, and perhaps hasn't quite fully grasped that yet.
Yeah.
But he better. He better. Actually, speaking of Miles Morales being Black Puerto Rican, let's go back to it a little bit, because I do remember when it was announced that Miles Morales would be a new Spider-Man. This is probably going back to, I want to say, 2000 and something, if I remember correctly. I'll check while I'm talking. But for your but yeah, there was, like, at the time, a lot of as there tends to be, right, a lot of talk about it. What's it gonna be, a Black Spider-Man now, that kind of thing. And some people pissed off about it. Of course, some people loving it. I think my opinion at the time was, I wasn't really reading Spider-Man too much at that time, and I wasn't going to start reading again just because there's a Black Spider-Man now. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of done with Spider-Man. I'm not done, but like I'm kind of like, I'm not, it's going to take more than Black Spider-Man to bring me back. I'm good.
Yeah,
but yeah, at the same, and I guess I could understand on some level that, if there is a change to something that you're used to, that it's always going to be jarring, right? Of course, that never excuses any kind of racism or anything like that. But I get it. Certain changes are gonna be certain changes are a lot. I get it. But what was your thoughts as a New Yorker, as a Spider-Man fan, as someone who is of a darker hue, of Miles Morales being a new Spider-Man?
When it was first announced, like, in the comics and everything, I didn't read comics like that. I just read, a little bit here and there. I had a friend at the time who was really into Spider-Man, who was really into comics and everything. And he was excited for it because he liked the change. For me, I just, from an average point of view, right? My only worry was just, I don't like to be handed characters just for the sake of being handed it to me, because what everybody kept saying was, oh, we're gonna have a new Spider-Man and Spider-Man's gonna be black. That's what people kept saying back then.
Yeah.
They didn't say much else. They didn't say, oh, well, this is how it led to that happening. All we were told is the Spider-Man we knew died, and so the new Spider-Man is gonna be this black kid. That's it. So based on that, I was like, man, if they're gonna do it, just let it be good, because I don't need anybody. And we still have those problems today. Most recently we had it with the Little Mermaid, where you take a character, even though it's all fictional, they started out white. And they've been known all this time as white, or whatever ethnicity they are, right? But for the sake of this example, white.
Yeah.
And then we have, like, whatever it may be, a new interpretation, a new iteration, whatever. And now they're not white, they're black, or whatever other ethnicity. I don't want to just be handed a character and that's it. Because then it brings, it just, I want more characters that are just us and belong to us. And I feel like with Miles Morales, they really gave us that. I can't say the same for the Little Mermaid, and this isn't about that. But just to silence any doubt, yeah, they managed to do that. And regardless of how much time it took, I feel like even if it took a long time, it's not about the how long it took. It's about the fact that we finally got here. And with this movie, I feel like, yeah, they really made Miles Morales his own Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's not just, oh yeah, that's Black Spider-Man. No,
Yeah.
That's Spider-Man. And you got to realize that was so difficult, and for them to even achieve it at all is remarkable. Um, and I think they doubled down on it to show you, like, yeah, we created so many different versions of this character. And yeah, Peter Parker is the original, right? But he's not the only.
Hmm.
And this, these two movies show you that, and they're like beating you over the head with it, like, yo, get with the program and understand that there are multiple versions of this character, and to accept whichever one you're willing to accept. And it doesn't matter if you're going to accept it or not, they're still going to be here.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think one of the things that they did well with this movie, in particular, and perhaps in the comics as well, but I can't speak for the Miles Morales comics. I don't read those, but I assume it's in there as
Mhm.
well. But just as what you said, he's not Black Spider Man. He's Spider Man.
Yeah.
And maybe like back when it was originally announced, yeah, they probably could have worded that better and had it less jarring and things like that. But right now, as of now, he's not Black Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man, and he's a Spider-Man. There are other Spider-Man as well, but he is
Mhm.
Spider-Man. And I like that they call this movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Or, they didn't call it Miles Morales Spider-Man or anything like that. They call it Spider-Man. Because he's
Yeah.
not Miles Morales Spider. Well, I mean, he is Miles Morales Spider-Man, but you know what I mean. It's not. It's a focus that he is
It's not like
Spider-Man.
he's going to go to a villain and said, hey, I'm Miles Morales, Spider-Man.
Right,
Like, no,
what
he
I mean?
says, I'm
He is
Spider-Man.
Spider Man, and so yeah, I mean, I assume that the comics and the development of comics. I'm just seeing it now, by the way. His first introduction was August 2011 in the Ultimate Fallout issue number 4. That was his first appearance. So yeah, August 2011 is when Miles Morales was introduced to the world. So yeah, since that, that's what 13, no 12. Well, yeah, about 12 years. Well, between
Mhm.
well now it's 12 years. When was 2018? Would have been 9 years, 8 years. I can't do math right now. 8 years, yeah. It would have been
Yeah.
8 years since his introduction. So in that time, I'm assuming in the comics that, and perhaps, I don't know, have you read the Miles Morales comics, by the way? I think you've probably read more than I have.
I haven't read them. What I've done is like watch people pretty much
Okay.
summarize a couple of the comics.
Okay.
And as far as I know, in the comics, it wasn't up until recently that he struggled. Like, it was a struggle to find like a good footing for him and
Oh,
everything.
okay. I
And
see. I see.
yeah, but
Okay, so
it's
maybe not because of the
understandable.
comics then. Maybe
Yeah,
the comics had nothing to do with this movie then. They just did good with this movie.
yeah,
Not
they
because,
pretty
yeah.
much it's like the blueprint of it, or
Yeah. Yeah.
what started it is the seeds. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's the perfect way to say it. It's the
The
seeds that
seeds.
sparked into this.
Mm, yeah. But yeah, no, I do like that. And I think, I mean, there's always going to be, I guess, that debate of, new characters, whether they should just create new characters, or take an old character and just, change the color palette. And, I mean, there's different opinions on it. I think I personally, I always do like to see new characters. I think that's always the way to go. Not always, but that's the way to go, the preferred way to go in terms of encouraging creativity. You create a new character, then you're kind of free from certain parameters of things you can do and can't do. And of course, to create a new character can take a while before you can bring them to a movie, or can bring them into a space where people are like to go see it. So I get that's a longer way round, but to me that's a preferred way round. That being said, I'm not mad at the idea of taking an old character and changing skin color, but I feel like to your point, it just can't be just that. You can't be just Black Spider-Man and then that's it. That's lame to me. That's lazy, and it's not interesting. If you're gonna have a new version of Spider-Man that just happens to be black, cool. But if all he is Black Spider-Man, that's just not interesting. But yes, Miles Morales is not that. And like I said, I didn't read the Miles Morales comics, so I can't speak for that. But certainly, as far as this movie goes, yeah, it's not that. He's Spider-Man. He's his own person. He's his own character. He's in this world where Peter Parker was, and in a world where other Peter Parker's turned up in, but he is his own person and his own character and his own with his own struggles, and some of them are similar to what Peter Parker went through for sure. But he's very much his own person, living in his own world and having his own adventures that don't revolve around, you know, at least in this movie so far, and maybe the comics say something different, I don't know, but at least in this movie, that don't involve like, hey, black kid, you're black. Let's have a message about racism in this point, message, what's that movie? Don't drink
Don't be
beer.
a menace.
Don't be a menace. Message. What I mean? Bear movies do that sort of thing where it's so obvious. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against the idea of having positive message in movies. Of course, that's a great thing. And this movie has its own positive messages as well. But it's just not like that in your face type thing where it's just like message. It doesn't do that. So I appreciate that from a creative point of view, from a filmmaking point of view, and just like making a good movie that just doesn't shove things in your face, and and still tells a great story that still has positive messages in there, that still encourages diversity, that still encourages equality, that still encourages acceptance without it being this focal point of everything they do in the film. So good movie in that respect. In with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me just get back to notes real quick. What did you? Because I felt like there was some really cool stuff they did with Miles Morales being a high school kid. Like the not tying his shoelaces, the awkwardness. He's kind of a cool kid, but he's also kind of awkward as well.
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought, because I thought that was like it's very. I mean, I don't know what high school kids are like now, but but back in my school days, and just from what I know of kids now, from when I've worked in schools, like that does feel very natural and common that you can be a kind of a cool kid, but also kind of a dorky as well. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's genuinely what it seems like his character is he's not like this cool kid. He has cool moments, of course, but he is like a nerd at heart or a geek at heart, a little not stereotypical geeky, but the kid is intelligent. He's into these things about science and everything and all that. They really show it more in the game interpretation of or game iteration of Miles Morales, but in this continuity, right, the film, he is hyper intelligent, but in a way where it's like believable. He's that's why his parents have so much faith in him, because he's shown so much potential, and they don't beat you over the head with it, and they don't make him seem like a fish out of water among his classmates and everything. And I really like his little interactions with Gwen. You get to see him be a kid. And even her, she's not like all put together and cool and everything. She has her awkward moments just like him.
Yeah.
And I want to see so much more of them really get to interact and spend time with each other. And I like that it's not beating you over the head. Like, obviously he has a crush on her, and she may like him too, but they don't do it in such a way where it's like, here we go. Like, these two just have to be together because Spider-Man, Gwen. No, they're not. They're doing it in a way where it's like, it's believable. When you were in school and you saw somebody that was, cute or whatever, that's how it starts. You try to talk to them and everything, and then you have little interactions, and he made her laugh. So for her, that's was her start. And not only that, she had to keep eyes on him in the first place anyway. But like, it was just, I love their interactions. I even, especially when she had to get her hair cut because of him. He was like, "I like your haircut. You don't get to say that."
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I want to start winding down the podcast now. But before we do, I'm gonna get mad inappropriate right now. I'm just warning you. I'm gonna get so inappropriate. So yeah, he fancies Gwen. Right, cool, whatever. That's all good.
Mhm.
And Gwen makes a comment about her being 18 months older than him, which she felt was significant. Personally, I don't think 18 months is that significant because they're both kind of teenage years anyway. But whatever.
Yeah.
That's not where I'm getting inappropriate. If they did get together, I mean, could they get together? Because she's effectively him in a different universe, right? So is that like, masturbating? Like, what is that?
I mean, in this case, it's different because it's not so much as like they're the same person. Because technically speaking, in this situation, they're all Spider-Man, right? Or Spider whatever. But they're not all Peter Parker or all Miles Morales or
Right.
all, whatever other names they had, like Penny and all that. You even have just other names, whatever, right? Um, so there is a possibility that even in Miles Morales's universe, there is another Gwen Stacy,
Right.
right? It's just that the Gwen Stacy in that universe he never met, he never ran into. It will make more sense that Gwen Stacy is actually in Queens because remember it's supposed to be with Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Peter Parker that died in Miles Morales's universe, that Gwen Stacy is probably still in Queens doing her own thing or whatever, whereas Miles is mean the Gwen Stacy of a different universe that actually became Spider-Woman.
Okay. Okay, no, fair enough, fair enough. And
Yeah.
maybe that they're not the direct kind of correlations with each other in the different universes in this particular case. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So here's my
Now,
question for
now, if we were talking about a female Miles Morales, that's a whole different thing.
All right,
Which
so here's
that universe could
yeah.
exist.
But here's my question for you then. Let's say you go to a different universe or a different universe comes here and you meet a female version of yourself and she's hot. What's happening?
I would get annoyed because here's the thing that people don't get: opposites attract for a reason. You may if you like the same exact thing, it's gonna get annoying. At first, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be like, "Oh, you like that show? That's great. I like that you like that show." But you would never. It would become so bland. You will never have an opposition of, a disagreement or anything because you're agreeing with the
Hmm.
same thing. You have the same reactions. You like the same things. You want the same food. Every time you go ahead and drink the orange juice has already been drunk, and that's when you're gonna start having problems. Everything
Yeah.
that you want, this other person already wanted.
Okay. So
And
you're
it's
not
gonna get tired fast.
you're not going for it. You're leaving the one
No,
alone. Okay.
I would like to have a one night stand and that's it, just to see what could be explored and that's it. But other than that, no, because I
But
would get annoyed.
I guess to be fair though, a female version itself would possibly be on the same kind of like you say if you're kind of like the same things, then you both kind of be into the whole one night thing as well anyway, and just be like, all right, cool, we've
Exactly.
done that, and then we
We
just
got it
like
out of our
go our separate
system.
ways.
We're good.
I guess it
Take
would
care.
suck though if she's a female version of you, but in a way where you don't necessarily like all the same things. So she's like almost like a compatible partner with you, and now
That would
you're
be
like,
different.
a
Yeah.
relationship with the female version of yourself is like from a different universe. It's like, can that be done? Or that just too weird?
It wouldn't be weird to me because it's
Yeah.
myself. The most important thing is to love yourself before anyone
Wow,
else.
this is true. This is true. Yes, it's
you
true.
know?
That's probably a good message to end on. Love yourself.
I feel like that's one of the lessons that this movie try to teach you too.
You know what? Yeah, I see that. I see that because you got to get along. You got to believe in yourself, right? You got to
Yeah.
encourage yourself.
I
You got to
mean,
be
look at
your. You
Pete's
got to.
journey.
So who's Jenny?
Peter.
Oh, Pete. Oh, yeah, Pete. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Peter
yeah,
B. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta encourage yourself. You gotta love yourself. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta show up for
absolutely.
yourself. And yeah, you gotta be your own best. What was it? Your own biggest fan. You gotta be your
Yeah.
own biggest fan.
I mean, you know, I'm gonna bring it to a more wholesome way. Think about it like this: you are the person that has to get yourself up in the morning. You are the person that has to jump in the
Mm,
shower. You are the person who has to go to work. Nobody's gonna do it for you. If you are fortunate enough to have a wife or a spouse or whatever, I should say, and they be like, "Hey, you better get up." Even when they get you out the house, they ain't gonna walk you to work.
yeah, yeah,
So,
indeed. Yeah, it's all you. It's
yeah.
all you. All right then. But yes, I think that's a good place to wind down. Was there anything else though that you wanted to say about Spider-Man before we end today?
All I gotta say is this: the sequel. This first off, this movie is incredible.
Mm,
Okay, do not sleep on this movie. This movie is really incredible, and not just for as an animation film, but as a film itself
yeah,
is
yeah,
incredible. Down to the writing, the characters, the acting, the art, um, just everything. Um, the cinematography of it, because you have to, even though it's not a physical camera, you're still placing like the digital camera in different angles. Like we were talking about that whole um difference of perspective by flipping the screen upside down to change
mm,
the direction that Miles is heading towards when he becomes, his actual Spider-Man.
yeah.
um so yeah, it's phenomenal to see. If you're missing out on it, you're missing out big. With that said, the sequel is mind-blowing.
Mm,
Like, this is already like a high, but this is a bigger high. And that's not to, even put down this movie one bit. It's just you see this movie and you're like, man, I don't know how else they could beat this. Yeah. when you,
okay.
when I was I say this, I don't want to rush to do that, but let's just say that I'm very excited to do it because they have this one character that, how you got to question me about New York and everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to question you about your culture and really
Oh,
get to,
okay.
yeah, you're
Okay.
I'm
I'm gonna need to look out for that guy then. I'm sure
oh,
I'll
you
spot.
you don't even have to look out. It's a standout character.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
even if you try to ignore them, you're not going to be able to. You're going to be so, and I'm not trying to hype it up. I know I am hyping it up, but I'm not trying to. You are going to have so much fun. And anybody that's listening to this, watching it, they seen the film, they know exactly what I'm talking about already. And I'm telling you, when I really can't wait to hear your reaction on this character and for you to let everybody know how genuine and how accurate this character is.
All right then. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds like a real. I mean, I've already had plenty of good reasons to go watch this movie anyway, but yeah, sounds like I'll get even more reasons to watch it. But yeah, and I do want to get to Across the Spider-Verse. I did see it's on Amazon for 14 quid. I could buy it on Amazon for 14 quid now, which is a little bit more than I like to spend on digital movies, but I
I
think it's
could have
gonna be
sworn
worth
it's
it.
on Disney Plus.
Oh, I'm gonna have to double check that then, because if it's on
Yeah,
Disney
you
Plus, I can
should
watch
double
it.
check that first before you buy it because
Okay.
it's already been released digitally. So,
Yeah, okay. I mean, I
yeah.
don't. Here's the thing when it comes to digital movies, real quick. Like, I don't mind buying them. I'd rather not spend more than about 7 quid, though. I have done in the past for some movies, and not always good movies. I should have spent
Yeah.
that money on. But I like to try and keep it below 7 quid. But every now and then, I feel like a movie like this, I feel like it'd be worth it. So yeah, a
It,
little bit
it
more than
it
what I want to
absolutely
spend, but I
would be
think it'd be
worth
worth
it,
it.
but it would be worth it, absolutely. But if
But yeah, check
You
Disney Plus
if you already
first.
have a subscription to something and it's
Yeah, for
already on
sure.
there, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, don't spend the money if you don't have to. You know what I mean? So,
exactly. But
I
this
get
will
that.
be
I
worth
get that.
it.
All right then. Well, yeah, I think that'd be a good place to wrap up our talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Let us know what you think of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in the comments. Let us know any other movies or shows or games or anything else you want to hear us talk about in the comments as well. Drop any suggestions. Appreciate everybody who's been listening and or watching. Big up to my man Sweet Bundy for coming through. Appreciate you and all that you do. But yeah, that's gonna be all for now. So guys, until whenever. If ever. Peace.